Alright guys, the time is now for a showdown between the Skaven, who are going to be led by Lord Skrolk, and the Vampire Coast, who's going to be led by a Vampire Fleet Admiral atop her mighty Promethean Crab. And if memory serves, I believe she's going to be using one of the hand cannons. So as far as the Crab mount goes, let's actually go ahead and take a look before I forget. So when you put them on the Crab, you don't see this terribly often. It doesn't change their speed at all. So her speed, I think, is 44 off the Crab, or either 46 or 44. It's in that range, so it doesn't really change much in that regard, but it does give her a ton of armor. So now she has 120 armor, which isn't bad against Skaven, because Skaven are usually going to be using slings and rocks and pebbles. Although Skaven artillery could be pretty good against Vampire Coast, I feel like it's very risky, because if they bring one or two carronades, they can shut down your play called catapults or warp lightning. So it's a little bit tricky. Granted, the metagame hasn't really developed yet as far as this matchup goes, I'm sure. And this is actually my first time playing Skaven versus the Vampire Coast, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. So we got 4 slingers in the front line. They're going to be peppering whatever they can hit. And obviously Vampire Coast don't really have shields. So if we look here, you can see they have gunnery mobs, they have deckhands, so there's no shields there. So I figured, hey, it might be good against chaff, good against the guns, and if they have big monsters, maybe just the volume of fire can do some damage. Aside from that, the front line is going to be all clan rats with shields, just kind of chaffy units. And they're going to do pretty good. 25, 31, 26 against the zombies. So let's go ahead and look. 17, 15, 29. So it should be good for the clan rats. Granted, the issue for these guys is the leadership, right? So their leadership's pretty poor. All of the Vampire Coast units do cause fear, of course, except the Sartosi units, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be a little bit spooky for the rats in the front line. We're going to try it out, see if they can hold. In the secondary line, we have the real meat and potatoes, right? We have the Storm Vermin with the swords and shields. We have 2 groups of those. We have some halberds, I think, on the flanks. No, we actually didn't bring any halberds. So 2 Storm Vermin, 2 groups of Death Runners here in the back, which these guys are an amazing counter against Depth Guard. So I was kind of expecting a couple Depth Guard, maybe just a mulch rat infantry. And the Death Runners just Shrek them so badly. They sunder their armor. They have good AP themselves. They do a really, really good job in that respect. So I mixed 2 of those guys in. Hopefully they'll help out in the front line against Prometheans and some of the other threats. We do have an assassin here. We got Lord Skrolk, and then we also do have a Warlock Engineer with the Howling Warp Gale. So just in case they go with like a big, Terrorgeist or some other spooky deck droppers, I wanted to be able to snare them down. On the flanks, we have a deep vanguard here of Death Runners who are going to be getting into the back line, and that is pretty much it. My opponent also has 2 Doggos. I almost forgot to mention those guys. So he's got 2 dogs, pretty good choice against Skaven at chasing down slingers. Whole front line is just zombie deckhands, mixing polearms and regular ones. He does have the Night Terrors, the Mournguls, which actually do pretty well against Skaven infantry. Very vulnerable to missile pressure, however, even though they do have a missile resist, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it's like 30%. He also has a bunch of Prometheans, so the Prometheans are actually going to be the biggest threat. I don't have too many answers for them, but I haven't seen them in this. I haven't seen Prometheans in numbers like this in some time, but I think in total there's 3 groups in the front. There's a Vampire Fleet Captain who does have vampires, and then the Admiral has Deep. Oh, okay, so he has the Vangeist Revenge, and then here on the Vampire Caster, he does have pretty much all the standard vampire spells that you see. So this is going to be a fun one, guys. So without further ado, get the show on the road. So the mainline forces are getting ready to engage. The slings are going to be starting to throw just the crabs. I mean, they're the first thing I could see. And the Mournguls do have stock, so I didn't know we had them until just now. So as soon as I see the Mournguls, I'm like, oh, all turrets fire. So I turn everything on the Mournguls. Here in the front line, it's going to be clan rats with shields, just taking an absolute pounding from these crabs. Although I think the crabs were kind of pathing forward, but they do have really good mass. So they're able to just mulch through my clan rats pretty efficiently. But that's okay. That's what clan rats are for. They're going to be getting in there, causing some problems, and then the rest of my troops are going to be engaging. Skrolk is also going to be going after the Vampire Fleet Captain. I do see him isolated, so I use the Libra Buvonicus. And Skrolk's going to be getting in there with his Pimp Cane here, but oh, he just got pinballed! Skrolk just got pinballed so hard right there. He got like knocked back and forth on those crabs, but the Libra does good damage. I pull in the Assassin as well, so definitely a pretty good pick. If I can kill the Vampire Caster here, that would probably honestly throw the game for my opponent, but he does notice, he pulls back, and he's going to be summoning some zombies to muck me down. So well played, good reaction. Also, the Night Runners with slings here are going to be thrown at the Mournguls. Mournguls are the ideal target, right? They have like low armor. I can just like pepper them with rocks, and it's going to go pretty well. They are doing a bit of a beating on my Storm Vermin, which definitely sucks, but I think we're going to get the Mournguls down, or at least very low, which is definitely a step in the right direction. The Death Runners have engaged with the Prometheans, and they're actually doing a great job. So I think Death Runners definitely have a niche in this matchup because they're good against so many things like the Death Guard and the Crabs, and they can flank the back line. Same thing also happened here. So Skrolk did summon some guys here in the gun line. My Death Runners in the back, who were in Deep Vanguard, have also rear charged the zombie pirates, and they're going to be chopping them up pretty good. And also some clan rats or Skaven slaves have gotten around the flank on the zombie pirate gunnery mobs who are actually crumbling from an attack from Skaven slaves, which is pretty interesting. Something you don't see terribly often, but the slaves probably feel pretty powerful right now with their 20 melee defense. But pretty cool stuff. We do get into the back line. Alas, they're just gunnery mobs. It's basically just chaff. Most of my opponent's army is like heavily dependent on his big boys here. So in the center, we have the Rotting Prometheans with the Von Hell's Dance Kebab, who are going to be fighting against some of my Storm Vermin. Definitely not a bad choice. He's got some Zom Pirates. He's just got all kinds of madness going on. My Warlock Engineers providing a Mortis Engine effect to burn down all these guys. And his Doglets have gotten into the back line. So the Scurvy Dogs They were able to chase down one group of slingers here, which is a pretty big loss for me. But the other ones, I basically did a massive reposition. So I swung up and around. I just looked at the battlefield. I'm like, I'm winning here. Everything is going well. I'm going to reposition my slings and hopefully get some good value. So I engage the dogs in melee with my Night Runner slingers, who aren't pushovers. And then I pull back my clan rats here with Scroll. Well, I summon them, and they're going to be attacking right there and hopefully able to help out. So the scurvy dogs are crumbling. So far, so good. Balance of power is really even, though. He has secured the gun line on this side. These two groups of zombie pirate gunnery mobs are in great shape. My assassin here, unfortunately, a little bit pinned down by the mass of the night terrors. But I figured, I'm like, hey, he's going to fight to the bitter end. I have some Skaven slaves and some clan rats coming back. Maybe they can help out. And these Death Runners are going to be re-engaging with the Prometheans, hopefully able to sunder their armor and bring them down. So my opponent does summon some zombies right here. Very good play into my slinger line. I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? What am I going to do here? But Skrulk is also here. He can summon some rats as well if I need to help out, but it looks like he does peel back into the front line there, so I didn't really need to do that. So I have 3 slingers, all of whom have pretty good ammunition. We're just kind of throwing pebbles in here on the rotting Prometheans, who have very good mitigation with their 120 armor. But we're still getting in there. We're dragging them down. All hands hoy, indication of Nehek going down, generating massive value for my opponent here. And Skrulk's in a bit of a duel of fates. You can see he's fighting in the pits versus hordes of zombies. Some of his Stormvermin are fighting side to side with him with Bless with Filth and Stand Your Ground, so they're definitely going to be very good in this situation. They're just kind of holding to the bitter end against the hordes of vampiric pirates. So we do summon some more clan rats right here to help out with Skrulk, because I was being bullied a little bit by this vampire. And Skrulk is a pretty powerful duelist, but of course, like, versus a fleet admiral and a captain, he's going to have a lot of trouble, right? So I pull back, I send in the Death Runners to sunder the armor of the crabs once they do get in there, hopefully. And we just have a massive torrent of fire coming in from the Night Runners with slings, just kind of peppering those crabs, slowly dragging those bad boys down. And he does summon some Zom Pirates back here, and Skrulk, I believe this is the moment at which I summon some rats back here myself to maybe defend. I'm not sure. But anyways, Rod of Corruption going down, which hits everything. So that was a really good and juicy cast here. I have some slaves over here who I need to pay attention to, but they'll be back in just a moment. And now I'm pulling back and forming a bit of a second battle line. So I'm re-engaging clan rats, re-engaging these clan rats here. These ones are detaching from the halberds to intercept those Zom Pirates to make sure that they don't get too crazy. I pretty much have to run. I mean, the crabs are chasing me. A lot of drama going on here as these massive crabs just kind of wade through my formations. And I'm having to, like, just break through these giant, like, shelled beasts just using pebbles, which is pretty, I think that's pretty Skaven, right? In the back, you can see the Death Runners are actually getting a little bit beat up by the gunnery mobs. If you put them in, well, probably because of the angle of my engagement here, but if you put them in guard mode, they actually keep shooting, although I don't know if my opponent has them in. Maybe he does. These other Death Runners have just been cleaning up house. 201 kills. They're going to be getting to these guns, so just been sweeping through the back line, feasting. But to pay for themselves, they really have to take out like 3.25, or I don't know if you feel like doing the math right now, but they have to kill a couple groups because those gunnery mobs only cost like 300 gold apiece. Anyways, the Vampire Fleet Captain and Admiral here are just fighting shoulder to shoulder against Stormvermin. They do have the pole arms, which are really good against Skaven because, number one, they can deal Fradaggers, but they also have really good AP against Stormvermins with the Sword and Shield, so definitely some pretty crazy stuff. So I decided to send in Skrulk. Might have been a little bit risky because I wanted to see if I could, like, finish off one of these guys or break their leadership with his contamination effect, which he does have. And the Slingers are all in okay shape. They've stabilized. My supporting units have pretty much taken out these deckhand mobs back here. That's not going to be too big of a deal. So the pebbles are coming in right now, but what I want to do is get the pebbles up and around and start peppering the back of this vampire force right here and seeing if I can, like, start hitting them in the juicy spots of their army, because I don't want to really throw into the backs of my troops. He does summon some pirates here. The zombie pirate deckhand mobs are summoned. Going to be a little bit scary, but they're already kind of generating, and honestly, the Stormvermin and other troops should be able to deal with them. And Skrulk, that's the moment I did it. So Skrulk, I do summon some troops here, but my hubris has been my downfall so far. Skrulk charged in there. I thought he was going to be fine. I got really greedy, but I also forgot about the mass of the Vampire Fleet Captain and these different troops here. So they're able to push through the supporting elements and just basically kill Skrulk with all their goodies and their crab claws. So that was really big. I was actually ahead on the bounce of power right there, but then that mistake, it's really going to be punishing, and I'm going to have to fight pretty hard to come back from that. So right here, you can see that the Death Runners and the other troops do get routed off by those guys. They were very beat up at that point. I mean, let's see, 239. These ones had 65, not as good. My assassin actually was able to kill the terrorists in the night, but he's still taken a bit of a beating here from the deckhand mobs. I would say he did pretty good for himself. He did take a beating, but he took out the terrorists in the night, was able to finish them off, so I was very happy about that. And the slings are now just kind of working on these shieldless units. So the game's kind of devolved into a bit of a wild mess, right? Like, the Skaven troops are routing everywhere. Skrulk has died. So suddenly I go from being ahead on the bounce of power to actually being substantially behind. So I was like, oh man, I really got to, like, rethink my game plan. So I pull back with the Night Runners here, going to be re-engaging my ranks. The Assassin's coming back, and I'm like, I'm going to pull them apart. I probably should have done this earlier, to be honest, just like kind of, run away and drag them out and just pepper them down with the slings rather than fighting in that sustained combat. But nonetheless, we are peppering down the deckhand mobs. There's a couple groups coming back here, and my assassin, unfortunately, is kind of getting chased a little bit. And that's what's really cool about the Pistol Lord he has. The Pistol Lord can actually, I can't run from it because he's just shooting me with his hand cannon. You can see she has the blunderbuss up here. Let's see if we can get a shot of that. There she goes on the crab, quite glorious. Some pebbles bouncing off her back, which is pretty hilarious. Probably not doing a whole lot against the vampire there. But my assassin is going to get broken off here by the two guys, as I do swoop in to try and snipe out his captain, or his, captain is the master variant. But yeah, I got a lot of troops rallying. I got some slingers coming back. These ones are pretty low on ammo, but this one actually has a lot, and 67 models. So I could potentially take those guys out. So basically, he ends up chasing my assassin off the battlefield, and I ended up killing all of his scraps, right? Because he creates a bit of separation with those guys, and I'm like, I smell the blood in the water. I'm like, I'm going to go in. 2 groups of storm vermin. I mean, I still have some decent troop quality. But just to crumble these guys super quick, I engage one to the front, one to the back here, collapse on those guys, break their leadership. And now you can see the bounce power creeps up a little bit in my favor, but as that assassin does run off the battlefield here, at 230 HP, it would have been nice if I could get like one more shank on that guy, but alas, he's gone. So now it's the final countdown. I'm going to be throwing some pebbles here at the Vampire Fleet Captain, who of course has 120 armor. Just like kiting about, waiting for him to charge up the hill so I can get my Storm Vermin charging down. When we get the charge, the Fleet Captain is going to be dying to the pebbles pretty quick here, if I'm not mistaken. Look at that though, man, the pebble power. Yeah, you can see it's very, very low, but the bounce power is so close, and I was like, oh man, if my guys would just fight to the bitter end, but they don't actually. Oh no, she doesn't die actually. I think she just crumbles down to like 500 HP, so that's going to be all she wrote. Very well played to my opponent. That was a super fun game. During the whole game, I was just having so much fun playing Skaven, and I definitely need to improve my Skaven game. But yeah, he played really well. He had a cool build. He brought some fun units as well. Obviously, you know, the Terrors in the Night or Night Terrors aren't the most competitive, but they're really fun to see. But yeah, I actually liked my build quite a bit. I think if I had not sent Skrulk in to try and get greedy and take that guy, I still had Winds of Magic as well as like charges of some of my items. I think if I had just saved Skrulk and been conservative with him, I think we would have been fine and probably would have been able to kill those guys later on once we dragged them out and pebbled them down a little bit. But maybe not. It's hard to say. I think that was a mistake that really kind of put my opponent ahead. But as far as the build goes, the Death Runners were great. They did a really good job in the front line killing the Prometheans and just providing utility, getting to the back line. The Slingers were really solid as well. I liked them quite a bit. The Storm Vermin, I think, were a good inclusion. They did well. And the Clan Rats did okay in certain areas. I mean, these ones got around the flank. They're kind of designed to just take the beating, though, right? You need to go wide against the Vampire Coast. But it was a really close battle, honestly. Like, that could have gone either way. So very well played to Falcon. That was an awesome game. I really liked his build, bringing all the crabs. I wasn't expecting this many crabs. I was expecting more like, I don't know, yeah. I guess most people have been bringing Warren goals against Skaven, but the crabs are actually really good. Like, they're hard to take down for sure, unless you bring like Storm Vermin. But why would you think to bring Storm Vermin against like a powder-centric faction, right? So it's kind of like the Mind Games thing. It was definitely very, very cool. But so what would I change in retrospect? I would probably keep the leadership kit, be a little bit more cautious with Skrulk and the Assassin. I left him over there and let him get trapped on his own, which was a huge mistake. I should have kept pebbling down the Morngulls. Had I done that, the Assassin would have been free. I would have had him to help out against the leadership. That would have been much better, but that was a huge mistake on my part. Clan Rats, maybe you could mix in some Spears. I don't know, you could switch them to the Spear variant. Maybe I would cut one Death Runner to get another like Storm Vermin. I think having a little bit more presence in the front line, or just maybe one Halberd unit, just to kind of keep it honest and give you something against the crabs. And, you know, I mean, you can go with Globadiers. There's so much different stuff you could do with Skaven. Like, you could go with Warp Lightning Cannons, but again, if they bring Carronades, they'll counter you. You could go with Death Globe Bombardiers to kill, you know, I would probably go with the Poison Wind to kill the crabs and Morngulls, because Poison Wind Globadiers will melt Prometheans so damn hard. So maybe you mix in a couple of those, like 2. I think that could be really strong. And if they just go with gunnery mobs like these ones, they're not going to be able to really range you anyways. But there's so many directions the Skaven can go. Hopefully this build kind of gives you guys a bit of a template to work off if you're interested in the Skaven versus Vampire Coast matchup. And again, very well played to my opponent, Falcon. It was an awesome match. Look forward to fighting again, my friend. And that's pretty much it for now. So thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. Take care.